On this podcast, we talk often about life, loss, and what truly matters. And part of that is taking care of the life we've been given. Did you know that cardiovascular disease and stroke are two of the leading causes of death in the U.S.? Yet 80% of these can actually be prevented. That's why I've partnered with Lifeline Screening. They offer a package of 4 quick, painless screenings for just $159. It's one appointment at one of over 14,000 locations across the country. No needles, no hospital gowns, no hassle. Just simple tests that can bring peace of mind or provide early detection. Lifeline Screening has already screened more than 10 million people. So don't wait. A simple screening can change the rest of your life. Click the link in my show description to schedule your appointment today. And now for today's episode. Welcome back to another episode of the Grief Observed podcast. My name's Brad Morrell. I'm your host. And if you would like to join me for an episode, you can find me on Facebook, TikTok, or Gmail, all under the name of Grief Observed Podcast. I'd love to have you on the show to tell your story about grief. My guest today is Louna Kadoch, and she is a clinical social worker who specializes in grief, perinatal loss, and she is here to talk a little bit about some personal grief as well as to help us along the way in our grief talks. So, Louna, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm really
Yeah,
happy to be here.
yeah. I'm so glad. I love when other professionals come on to not only share their personal stories, but also to maybe expand the way we think about grief. So maybe I'll pick your brain a little bit.
I
So
think I think I I think it's important to. I think that we all have a certain, skill set and we should be able to share it and teach each other.
Absolutely. And I state that the world of grief is large enough for us all. It's I think there's certain people that think, that it's too large of not grief specifically, but
Mhm.
um whatever line of work they're in, that I can't share this with other people, but
Right.
grief is so large, we're all going to be affected by it, whether we lose someone or, obviously we can't get out of here alive ourselves. So
No.
death is indiscriminate. And so
Yet it's something that people are still afraid to talk about.
it is. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of unknowns, whether it's about death or grief. And if someone has not lost someone significant,
Mm,
it is a scary topic, right?
I agree. I think I mean I can only speak for myself, but weirdly enough, I can't remember a time where I was afraid of death.
Hmm.
I think maybe when I was younger, I remember, being afraid of dying or losing my parents or my grandparents, like when they would, when they were sick. But to say that it was something I was afraid of talking about or afraid of you know, talking to someone who has lost someone, I don't think that fear was ever there for me.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. It's as though it's always been my calling.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I would say
It-
that you are the exception to the norm on that because I feel like most people do have at least a healthy fear of dying or grief or
Mm,
losing someone they love. But
mm,
I think the more people we lose, in fact, I did a TikTok video yesterday about this. It was just a small clip talking about um, how when the older we get, the more funerals we're going to attend.
mm.
But as friends, family, and all that start aging out, my question was, who's going to be at your funeral? The older we get, and if you look at
Yeah.
older people, even if they had, a lot of friends, sometimes their funerals are not that large, and
Yeah.
it's because they've outlived everybody.
It's sad.
It is sad.
It's
It is sad.
sad. I mean, it's sad to not have that kind of support, right? Or the people around you to talk about your life, because those are the people that knew you, right?
Yeah. I'm going to bring something out of the hat. I just thought of this. I don't know
Okay.
why, but I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Highlander, and it would take a really special person to have seen these movies, but it was basically about these immortals, and they would be immortal until there was only one left. But it was almost a curse to live forever for them. Like they had gone through centuries of living in different things, and all the people that had passed away, like the main character, Connor McLeod, had had several wives because he had seen so many of them pass away throughout the centuries.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking, I don't know that I want to live an extremely long life. I just hit 50. 100 seems ridiculous to me. uh,
Yeah,
I think, 85, 87, somewhere in there would be good for me. But I don't know. We all have a different idea of what a good life should look like, how long that should be. But
right.
when you start seeing all of your friends, all of your family pass away, there is a sadness that goes along, and that's obviously why we work in grief, right?
100%. Yeah, and I think that your perspective also changes, and I guess, we'll have the chance to talk about it when your child dies, right?
Mm,
When it's not an expected death. We talk about, we were speaking about death of as we get older, right? And when we're 80, 85, it's not so shocking when we start seeing people die. But then what does life look like when your child dies or
mm.
when someone young dies, right? It's harder.
Yeah. Luna, I'll share something with you that I heard a long time ago, and it just really shocked me to the core. I heard someone talking about how a woman who loses her husband's a widow, a man who loses his wife is a widower, but there is no name for a parent who loses a child. And I
Yeah.
thought that was just an amazing thing that this person had said, and I'd never heard it put that way.
Yeah.
Um,
I have because it's crazy how we feel like we need to identify as someone, right? Like it's we're when we have children, we are mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, grandparents. And like you said, we lose them, there are names. And so the question I've been reflecting on that because I've heard this before, this what you've said. What are we called? Why hasn't there been a name given? Um, I'm certainly not going to be the one creating it. I'm sure, but I think that because it's so out of order, it's so rare for a parent to lose a child that it doesn't merit a name. I don't
mm.
know. Or maybe it does, and we haven't been able to think of one.
Yeah, I like you stated, I wouldn't want to be the one to coin that term.
No.
Um, and maybe it is such a hard thing to deal with that there is simply just no name for it.
And I think I'm okay with just being called a mother,
That's right. I was going to
right?
say you're a mother of three.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about being a mother, and you have lost a child. So let's dig in a little more about her and her life and you being a mother.
So I'm a mother of three children. My son Jacob is now 17, and I have my younger one, Emma, who is almost 13. And I have Miriam, who was 12 when she died about 3 years ago.
Hmm,
She would have been 15 now. So I'm a mother to three children now and always.
that's right.
I think that it's just harder when you lose a child to have the opportunities to always talk about your three children because there's always someone missing.
Hmm.
right? But the wanting of being her mother is still very much present for me, but it's just in a different way, right? So, I mean,
Yeah.
what makes a mom a mom? It could be, I mean, we can say, is a mother just to birth a child, right? But then what about all the moms who adopt or foster or are step parents? Are they also a mom, right? And so I think that the definition of a mother can be coined in many different ways. And I just think, and I guess this is what I hope and try is that, and I explained to Jacob and Emma because, you know, do they feel like all I do is talk about Miriam, right? And the fact that Miriam's not here and do things in her name. And I sat down with them at one point because I had to tell them that I have three children. I will always have three children. Therefore, I will continue to be there for all three of you
That's
in
right.
ways, right? And so I parent, I'm not getting the opportunity to parent Miriam, but I am always going to take the time to be her mother and honor her and remember her and what I love most is talking about her.
Yeah. I'm going to drop something on you, and I've spoken about it a couple of times lately, and
Yeah.
it's just something that I really, really enjoy talking about. And I don't know, there may be some listeners that's like, dude, shut up at this point. But especially talking to a mom who's lost a child, I think it's really appropriate that we go there. Have you
Please.
have you heard of the term microchimerism?
I cannot say I have.
Okay. So I've been doing a lot of studies on blood and DNA and things like that. So this kind of originated whenever I saw a woman on TikTok speaking about how the blood of a child stays in a mother forever, which is not exactly correct. During the birthing process, or shortly thereafter, the DNA of that child would dissipate out of the blood. However, the DNA of each child basically will go to certain organs in a mother's body, whether it's her brain, her heart. Um, it can actually be beneficial for mom working as a stem cell to kind of correct abnormalities in her body, but it
Hmm.
could also work against her in certain things like immune disorders. So, but what I love about it is they have found studies at least 27 years later where the DNA of a child is in the mother. So,
Oh,
whenever you think about Miriam, you likely still carry part of her with you physically. And this is why I think mothers grieve differently than fathers, almost to a physical degree because of that DNA.
I'm
Now,
loving
I'm
this fact. If
yeah, it is so cool. Now, I'm very, very careful to, I don't want any fathers that are listening to this stating that, my daughter was just as important to me
right.
as it was to mom. But I do believe overall mothers grieve differently. Now, I think the ultimate indicator of how somebody grieves is certainly relationship.
Hmm.
But it is interesting that Miriam's DNA, 99.9% still lives inside of you. Now, here's where it gets super, super cool. If that's not cool enough.
I was gonna say this is pretty cool already.
Yeah. So there's something called sibling microchimerism, where since her DNA was in you when you had your last child, Emma,
Emma, yeah.
um, she very well may have a portion of her sister in her as well. Now, the cool thing is, your son, he could have actually passed on through you DNA to both of his sisters. So it's very, very cool. I'm still studying it a lot, but I really want to dig in deeper is how does this affect people in their grief? So,
No, I mean, if I can try to paint a picture or at least to get you to feel what I feel as a mother, um, I'm going to start with even the conception of Miriam.
Mm.
I remember it so vividly, the day, Miriam in particular. I don't remember Jacob and Emma's, but Miriam's I do. And it was a very physical and spiritual event, if I can
Mm.
call it that.
Yeah.
And I remember it. I remember it, and I've always spoken about it to her dad. And recently I shared it with her siblings, not in specifics, but I mean I've shared it. And it got me to think that even from conception, there was a physical awakening that I had just, with her dad, created her, right?
Mm.
And the connection, you feel with, I feel, I could only speak for myself, with all my children is there's nothing more deep than the love and the connection that you feel for your child, very differently than what you feel for your partner, for your parents even, right? There's
Sure.
and so then I must agree that there must be a physical connection. Well, when she got sick, even before she died, and I heard the news, it felt like I was sick. It felt like something was taken from me. And then when she died, literally we say that a piece of our heart is gone. I felt something being ripped out of me,
Mm.
and it has not come back. And so that physical emptiness of not seeing her at home, right? She had her spot in my living room. She had her little things. There's something missing. A physical being is missing, but there's something missing inside of me where I can say that I'm not who I was, nor will I ever be. And I think that in the last few years, certainly with help from my therapist, but is that I don't know if I ever want to be the old Luna without her.
Yeah.
And so it's learning to be a different me because I'm being her mother in a different way.
Yeah.
So,
And
but
I
I mean,
think that's an, I'm sorry, go ahead.
okay. No, I was going to go somewhere else, but maybe not. But like, does that mean that I grieve, you know, more than her dad? No, just differently.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely for sure.
Yeah.
And grief does forever change us, and you're right. There's really no way to go back to where we were. A lot of times we try to go back to a place that no longer exists. And I think that's why a lot of people get so stuck in grief, that
Mm,
they're
yeah.
trying to find old ways, but it's like it's a one-way door. You cannot go back to where you once were. But it doesn't mean that you can't grow and that you can't do great things. You're obviously taking this and growing it into helping others through grief.
Yeah.
Did you always have a heart for grief, or was this something after the passing of your daughter?
So way before I've been a clinical social worker now for the last 22 years,
Okay.
in a hospital setting, and I've worked in maternal child,
Mm.
probably for about now 16 years. And my niche has always been perinatal loss. And so I was supporting parents in the loss of their babies for the last 16 years. So
Wow.
before Miriam died, right?
Mm.
Um, how I developed like a niche for it or a passion for it, I don't, I mean, I think it was always there. And with the years, it grew and grew and grew and grew. Um, but I've admitted this plenty of times, that until I lost Miriam, um, I didn't, not that I wasn't able, I've always connected with parents. I've always been able to be empathetic. I've always been able to support them through their loss. But it's as though after losing Miriam, that I was something changed, a new set of glasses, right? I put on, and I was able to really understand
Mm.
what they were going through. And that perspective or that feeling I don't think you can ever have as a professional unless you've lived it.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand that. I went through a prenatal loss class. It's probably been about 3, 4 years ago at this point. And, no matter how much is painted for me there, and, obviously I work with clients who have gone through grief. I work with people who have lost children, whether it's in birth, pre birth, later in life. But you have a big one up on me, and that's you're a mom. Like, I don't know what it's like to carry a child inside of me, and I think it's really hard to explain that to a man as much as we want to understand women. But I think it's where you can really, really tune in to other women who have gone through this and be super, super effective. And we need that.
But we also need, and you're right, but what we tend to forget
Dad.
is that you're right. I carried her, I birthed her, but it takes two
That's right.
to make a child. And it's actually, I've always tried to be really, really conscious about that, that when I'm helping mothers who have lost a baby, that I'm not just talking to the mother, there's a father sitting right next to her
That is
grieving.
exactly right. Yep.
And so, no, you're right. You know, Brad, you may have never carried a child, but you're a father.
Yeah.
And that too has to mean something and count. The loss is there. And I've interviewed dads, plenty of dads. And sometimes they are, and not that I want to compare, but the way they present themselves, they feel it even deeper than the mother sometimes.
Mm.
And you start to wonder why or how. And there's no questioning it. There's no point. Everyone's going to grieve differently, whether you're a mom or a dad. We all have our own paths to take.
Yeah. One of the things that I'll say this, and then I would love to transition into speaking more about the life of your daughter. But
Of course.
since we're on prenatal, there's, I think one of the hardest things for prenatal loss is, for lack of better words, there's no evidence of the loss for those who are not in the situation,
Mm,
and so I think it's more difficult for people to understand and to support those who have gone through that type of loss. When
yeah.
there's evidence of the loss, people are there at least for a few weeks. We talk about that a lot on this podcast. Like, where's the support months down the road?
Yeah.
It generally fades very quickly. It's overwhelming in the beginning, and then it fades very quickly.
Yeah.
But in
Agree.
prenatal loss, and sometimes it's hidden. Like, there's a lot of people that don't even speak openly that, hey, we lost a child.
It's harder to confirm, right? Well, we never met your child. What do you mean you have three children and one of
Sure.
them, right? It's much harder to. It is. You're absolutely right. The evidence piece, and I'm assuming you mean evidence as the life, right?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's a baby to hold and that baby dies,
Yeah.
people would be there with open arms and
100%.
meals cooked and lawns mowed, like the whole 9 yards. But if if the baby never makes full term,
Mm,
there's a lot of people who don't know how to support that. And
yeah.
again,
When,
it's if it is publicly known, I still feel like it's just a spot where people are not really good and effective at being there for the parents.
well, that's why we have October 15th. It's National Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Day. And so to raise awareness specifically
That's
for
right.
these babies, right? There isn't a day for a child loss.
Hmm.
I mean, there's a grief awareness day,
Sure.
Yes, child beef in November, but there isn't one specific for, let's say, a mother who lost her 12-year-old.
That's
No.
right. Well,
Although they did give us bereaved Mother's Day.
yeah.
Yeah, it's the week before the actual Mother's Day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's transition and talk about Miriam. And let's talk
With
about her
pleasure.
life first.
Okay.
Tell me about her.
So Miriam was a feisty girl, very stubborn, um, beautiful. She looked exactly like her dad. Um, Beautiful green eyes. I used to always say that she looked exactly like her dad and compared her to her dad. And when I got to know her even more after her cancer diagnosis, I realized that she's a lot like me, personality. Her and I, we clash a lot because of our stubborn personalities, perhaps.
Maybe that's a middle child thing. I'm a middle child.
Yeah, that's it. So, you're right. It is, but we have to learn as parents to be a lot more patient with these middle children, right? And she taught me that. Um, she was a kind human. She always thought of other people before herself. Um, Even when she got sick, she continued to exemplify kindness, wanting to, reach out to the other children on the ward. Um, Whether it was she would be, bombarded with gifts from organizations or from families and friends. And at one point, she couldn't handle it anymore. She's like, I don't need all of this. Can we please give them to the other children? So
Hmm.
this was Miriam always. She didn't really need much. Um, and I ended up finding out later also that she was a big TikToker.
Yeah.
Yeah, and had a big following, which I didn't know, with random silly videos, but that was her thing. And I very thankful to those videos now,
Oh, yeah.
to
Yeah.
get to see them. You don't realize, I was kind of jealous of her dad because he would always lend her his phone. And so he ended up with like, hundreds of videos.
Hmm.
And I would always tell her, no, you're not using the phone right now. So I have less videos. But he shared them with me. And this was Miriam, and she was about to start high school.
Hmm.
And I mean, I don't know if you want to know. It's interesting because you asked me to speak about her life, and I get blocked because I don't know why it's hard to remember her life before cancer.
Hmm.
And and I know it was there. It was there for the last 11 and a half years. I mean, she did have a life, yet it's so hard to go back there sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And I go back there when I see pictures and I see videos or the children remind me of things, right? Like her playing pretend teacher. That was her thing. Like, or her playing dolls even at 11 years old. And that reminded me a lot of me because I was playing Barbies until I was 12 or 13 even. And like life was just normal before
Hmm.
cancer came. It was just, I got divorced in 2017 when the children were young. So there was an adaptation there, to parent, to co-parent, to not see them
Hmm.
for, a week at a time. And that was hard. And then it became our new normal. So, but that, in hindsight, I was okay just with that, like if that was our life and they were thriving and they were doing well and they were happy, I would have taken that until forever, right? But again, it's so hard to think of life before cancer because cancer really robbed us of a lot. But cancer also taught me a lot.
Yeah.
And I say, and I've said this over and over, but it was the cancer that really got me to know her because I didn't know her. I didn't
Hmm.
give her the chance. I didn't give her the chance. to get to know her. And whether that's because, you become busy and you're raising children and you have to work full time and you come home and you got to make supper and you have to do homework and you don't really get to know them, maybe, but those are excuses, right? And you have to find ways to spend time and get to know your child. And there's a lot of guilt with that. Um, because then when she was diagnosed with cancer, I got to know her and I got to really know her. And I'm forever grateful for those months that I got to spend with her.
My daughter's 23 now, and I've seen her transition, and I I love her even more today than yesterday, and definitely more than years ago. I appreciate those younger years, but wow, do they ever fly by so quick? And a lot of those are very formative years, and personalities are changing and evolving depending on what boy they're talking to or what sport they're involved in. There's a
Yeah.
lot of evolving. Um,
Yeah.
so a lot of that is you're kind of letting a child come into their own, I guess, and develop that. And so for you to state, I didn't know her well, I think it's just a lot of that is because of all the transitions that they're going through,
I guess so.
yeah,
So,
yes.
and you're right. I mean, we develop. This is why I was robbed of a life. We were robbed. She was robbed of a future, right? I mean, we had 12 years, and in the same sentence, I'm going to say, like, although I only had 12 years, I'm so grateful that I had 12 years,
Yeah.
right? That I got to be her mom for 12 years is a gift.
And Luna, I think one of the other reasons that you may have gotten to know her well in the end is you had an adult mind already, but when a child is going through cancer, that's a grown up type of thing that they're having to understand things that most kids that are 12 years old will never even think about, right?
Yeah,
So I think the fact that maybe her mind had to adult really quickly to understand what's going on in, her 12-year-old way, that
yeah,
that may be why you made a bigger connection to right there at the end, just
it's very
be,
possible.
yeah.
She was wise. I mean, she didn't shy away from asking me questions about what it would be like to die, right? And
Mm,
how, as a mother, do you answer that when you're not expecting her to die?
right.
Her from diagnosis to her passing, it was 4 months to the date.
Wow.
And it was um, following a surgery. So none of us thought she wasn't coming out. I mean, we were realistic in that it was going to be a long road ahead. Perhaps not that realistic, but I mean, I certainly did not walk her into that surgery thinking that I was saying goodbye to her. Um, but that's what we did without knowing it, right?
Wow.
So when she would ask me those kinds of questions, and because I have vivid memories, and even, I went through a lot of the texts that I would have with her, and and she would ask me, Mom, what does it feel like to die?
Mm,
And I remember this question because I remembered processing it in my mind, like, do I answer her? What do I answer her? I don't even, and I just decided to be honest. And I told her I have no idea.
yeah.
I have no idea what it's like, but I would hope that it was peaceful and that you would be okay. And I had to answer her. I couldn't just
Mm,
let her not, or I didn't want her to go to a dark place either,
sure.
right? That dying was hard, or that dying was scary, or that dying would hurt. Because
Yeah.
I think the last thing I ever wanted was for her to hurt.
May I ask what type of cancer it was?
It was a neuroblastoma. A
Mm.
lot of people think that neuroblastomas could be everywhere, but it
Mm-hmm.
was not in the brain. It was in the adrenal gland.
Mm.
Um, to be honest, we had zero um, like signs. She was perfectly well and functional and happy child. And over the summer, I would see her with less clothes. She would be in a bathing suit. And I noticed that her belly was a little bit bigger than usual. And I was concerned. And and I thankfully I work in a hospital setting and I had asked one of the doctors if they thought that, this was something that I should go and check out. And they said, well, look, I mean, it doesn't look concerning, but why don't you go and see? And I did. I went to go get we went to go get an x-ray together. That morning, we ended up getting an appointment, and by the afternoon, I was in the oncologist's office.
Wow.
Never had time to even process any of that, really, I think until she died. Um, and it was a 24 centimeter mass. It was huge. That's almost the size of a ruler.
Wow.
So, there was a lot of processing with that too. Like, how did I miss that?
Mm.
How did I miss, as her mother, that something horrific was growing inside her?
Yeah.
But
I don't
she never.
want I don't want to put you on the spot here, but you had mentioned something, and I don't know that I've spoken about this here on the podcast, but
Mhm.
you mentioned getting divorced in 2017, right? Was that difficult being uh, separate from her father during this time period, or?
So I've said it and I continue to say it, it was a blessing.
Hmm.
Um, I think Miriam brought us closer together when she was sick.
Wow.
Yeah. We were able to navigate this illness together. She put us in our place if we argued. And so the moment one of us would, get angry or yell, she shut that right down.
Hmm.
And that made it even nicer.
Yeah.
I think that, after she passed away, um, why I say it was a blessing that we were divorced is because knowing, in the work of grief and loss and knowing that, even sometimes parents will grieve differently. Um, him and I grieved very differently,
Hmm.
very, very differently. Neither way was better, but it was so different that I believe that, and knowing my personality, probably that had we still been living in the same house and having to parent the other two children, I don't think we would have survived that. I think that we would have actually definitely gotten divorced after that. We wouldn't have
Yeah.
been able to parent our children and still create a space for them to grieve
Hmm.
Miriam. And so that's why I say it was a blessing. But it's also a blessing because him and I have been able to find each other. We can talk about Miriam and never get sick of it. I can be really sad and crying for no reason per se and call him and he will listen and he will understand
Hmm.
and vice versa, right? And I think that we will always have that.
That is very interesting. And
Yeah,
like you stated, um, divorce rate after child loss
it's very
is
high.
pretty staggering. Yeah. That is something that I learned probably over the last year is this window of tolerance where if one parent is fragile, it's, you're in the danger zone already. But if both parents are in a fragile state, it's
Mm,
really bad.
yeah.
When two people get to a secure state, and it may take a while, but that's really interesting that you state that really through her death, she's actually brought you all to a closer state, one that, she's the connecting piece for sure.
I hope he feels the same way. I
Yeah,
mean, I this is how I feel.
yeah,
And we have to continue to parent our other two children.
that's right.
So there's, it's to our advantage. I think to all, like any divorced couple, right? I mean, it's not always so nice. It's unfortunate, but when we're able to put our children first, I think that we're able to better parent, right? We weren't good as a couple, but we do make good parents.
Sure.
And so keeping that in mind is, I think is important.
I know it's hard to speak for other people, not just your ex-husband, but how did the kids deal with this, losing a sibling?
So, I mean, it's been a few years, and so the way they've processed it's been very different. As a mother, my first worry was I need to make sure that the kids are okay, right? So
Mm,
it's like I was so afraid of how they would be. And so they both didn't want to go to therapy.
mm,
I respected that. I We went for one family session, and I think that was disastrous for us. But I, knowing that they didn't want that and knowing as a professional therapy is not for everyone, I had to just make sure that we can at least provide them a space to grieve and that to not, to let them know that it's okay that they cry, right? Not that to people to say, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. No,
right.
cry. You want to cry, you cry. You want to talk about her, you talk about her. And so I think on some level I am grateful that I had some of the tools, but then I was also really aware that I'm their mother, not their therapist.
Mm.
And to me that was even a greater gift to be able to be their mother and create that space for them. But I mean, it was hard. And I think, Jacob took it differently than Emma, um, in many different ways. He's still struggling at times,
Mm.
but he's also older and he knew Miriam more. Emma was always quiet, about it all. Yet she is the one that asked to speak on my podcast. I had her on
Mm.
one of the episodes
Very nice.
and she shocked me.
Really.
Yeah, she really, really did because she requested to speak and she did it so beautifully. And there are things that she said that even shocked me as a mother that I didn't even know. And so it just got me to think, how much are they carrying?
A lot
You know?
more than we realize. Yeah.
Yeah. But all I
Wow.
can do is remind them that I'm there for them. All I can do is remind them that it's horrible that they lost their sister, but that they're allowed to grieve and they can grieve for the rest of their life because there will be something missing. But
Yeah.
hopefully they will be filled with so much love and happiness and good things that, they will be okay.
Has it brought Jacob and Emma closer, or do they
Thousand
just,
percent.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I think that they were always kind of close, the two of them. Miriam was more of the different one,
Yeah.
the middle child.
Yeah.
But but I see their relationship now and I'm like floored by it sometimes.
Mm.
Like Emma will, come and say goodnight to me and she'll go and make sure to hug and kiss Jacob goodnight.
Wow.
And I love it.
Yeah.
And whether that happened because Miriam is gone, even more, maybe, but I'm forever grateful.
Yeah.
Certainly that one of the biggest hardships for me. And when she died, it was one of the first thing I vocalized was that Emma doesn't have her sister. I have five sisters. And
Mm.
so the relationship we have with our sisters is so beyond beautiful and precious and, you know, rare sometimes. And she doesn't have that. And that was hard. That was hard for me to accept.
Wow.
Yeah.
Luna, I want to make another transition here. Let's talk
Okay.
about out of order. You've got a
Yes.
podcast and a book entitled Out of Order.
Mm,
Tell me about them.
exactly what it sounds like. Um, well, the name says it all, and it's a little crazy how it came to be. I don't even remember it well, but I just remember wanting to, you know, talk about Miriam all the time. And I remember saying to myself, if I want to be able to process my grief, and people are gonna probably, gonna get sick of me, or maybe not, I don't know. But how many parents out there don't have the opportunity to share their story and want to talk, and especially when it's, a loss of a child, that it's just out of order, right? We expect our elderly to, we talked about that before. We expect the elderly to go. We expect our parents, our grandparents, right? As hard as that is, and we have to still navigate that grief, there is a level of understanding because death is inevitable
Right.
for all of us, for the rich, for the poor, for all of us. And so, but there's this um, difficulty in understanding when a child dies because it's just not acceptable, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's
Why?
a break in chronological order, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
It's not the way
And,
it
and
should be.
certainly when you see children that are sick, right? Cancer is a beast, a nasty, nasty beast. And when you see it um, really destroying your child, it makes no sense. And so, we say always like, well, how do we get over that? Or how do we grieve? Or how do we? And well, we don't. Grief changes over time. We just will never, ever stop grieving our child. And so we just, we welcome the opportunity to be able to share because that's all we can do is to talk about them, to remember them, to honor them. And there's no right way of grieving. And if we're being very honest, I mean, we can read a lot of textbooks, right? We can read about the stages and we can read about what to expect and what we can expect. But the reality is, grieving is about feeling. It's about really feeling what you are feeling. And so I say it all the time. If you are feeling angry, and to the kids, if you are feeling angry, be angry. Be angry. Find that space to be angry because there's no getting over that. There's just getting through it and processing it and feeling it. And so I created that platform for parents. And my hope was always to, if it helps them in any way, then I have done what I want to do. But what I've gained from all of this is that it's helped a lot of people, even who haven't lost a child,
Hmm.
to know how to speak to us,
Yes.
how to, they're afraid to. They're afraid to say anything
I
because they
think
don't want
that's
to upset
equally as
us.
important,
Yeah,
and
of course.
you're exactly right. Sometimes, well, there's something called the rule of thirds, and I think Alan Wolfelt may have coined this. If not, I'm sorry to whoever did. But the rule of thirds states that a third of the people in grief are going to help you. A third of the people are going to be neither helpful nor hurtful, and then a third of people will be hurtful to you. But the thing about that hurtful, and he doesn't really explain this to my recollection, but I would say half of those people are hurtful, not even knowing that they're being hurtful. Whether it's something like I've always stated, I want to write a book. If I do write another book, we talked about this before the show.
Yeah.
I stated I would never write another book, but there may be one, and I would entitle it 100 the 100 dumbest things I've heard at a funeral. Like, and starting
Yes.
with I know exactly how you feel, right? That's not helpful. It's very hurtful. You're minimizing the person in front of you and their grief.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like the people are just feeling the air because they're uncomfortable.
That's exactly
So
it.
they state things that they normally wouldn't. Heaven just needed another angel. It's like, shut up. I want to punch you in the face for saying that. Like
Yes.
that is not helpful right now. Like I just lost, in your case, a child.
Mm.
But I do believe half of the hurtful is they have good intentions.
100%. I won't take that away from people. You're right. That there are good intentions, but there's a lack of knowledge. There's a lack of knowing, and I think that as human beings, we always feel like we have to fill that space,
Yeah.
fill that emptiness, right? Like I think that people are not just uncomfortable with death, like we spoke about that too, but they're uncomfortable with silence.
Yes.
And people who are listening are like, well, yeah, I like to talk a lot. You're right, I do, but silence is so important, and I'm okay to sit with someone in silence, but it's hard.
It is. But I think that in silence is when we probably learn the most. Now, I will tell you, I struggle with silence. When I'm here at the house by myself, I'm playing music, I'm scrolling through TikTok, I'm doing something
Yeah.
to fill the empty space because I'm not comfortable with it. And I'm a
Yeah.
therapist and I realize this. But when I'm intentional about breaking away and being okay in the quiet, like right now, it's beautiful. It's fall outside here. It's probably winter where you're at, but
Not yet, not yet.
not yet. Getting close.
Yeah.
It's definitely hockey season. I'm a fan of that,
Mhm,
but
mhm.
I love the fall. I get out there, watch the leaves fall off the trees, smelling the, crisp air.
Yeah.
And it's in those moments, I think, where we learn the most about life, the most about love, the most about grief when we're
Yeah, but you
able
have to be
to sit.
conscious, right, about those moments. You have to
Right.
like you said, you have to really take a second to say, okay, I need to be in the moment and be
Yeah.
silent and appreciate those things.
Yes. Wow, this has been a great podcast, and we're edging up on the end of it. It's flown by. We
Yeah.
may have to do another one down the road. Like you're definitely
Anytime.
welcome back.
I can
It's
talk a
been good.
lot. I can talk a lot.
Give her a microphone and she won't
Yeah.
shut up, right? No,
But I
I'm just
promise
kidding.
you I'm a good listener.
Good, good.
Yeah. Good
Yeah,
listener.
I'm like that too. I am a good listener when it's required, and definitely in the therapy room, that's where it's required. My wife would probably debate this whole listening fact. I do have selective hearing, so I'll go ahead and
I
put
guess
that one out there.
we all have that problem maybe as therapists. They don't believe it. They don't quite believe how we can actually listen to our clients, but we really do.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. But I do like to be active in the counseling room because I feel like when we interject in certain areas, that's also where learning comes, and that's where I think people need, I hate to say it, but more training on how to assist those who are going through grief. Like
Mm.
even from just an individual standpoint, like how do I like I'm going to be doing a seminar here in a month at a church and doing another one at a funeral home. One just for grief in general, one for grief during the holidays. And
Mm.
I love talking to these people and just stating, like, it's not everybody who's going through grief that shows up there. Sometimes it's the person that's sitting next to them is the support piece,
Right.
whether it's a sister that is supporting someone who's lost their spouse. It's good to see people tagging along to these events. And anyway,
But we need that. We need the support.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And my mentor Bob Niemeyer came on the show not too long ago, and I jokingly said, "Why are we collectively bad at this? Bad at grieving?" And he said, we're really not as collectively. And I think there are times where maybe he's right that
Mm.
it's maybe timing is wrong for a lot of people, that they may normally be able to say something good, but maybe there's something going on in their life that's preventing them from being the good support piece that a person needs.
It's
There's so
interesting.
many
Yeah.
factors
Yeah.
involved, you know?
Well, it's grief can be isolating, but we need to, make sure to keep the people who love us and support us close.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Luna, tell me anything that we've missed or anything else. You've
Well,
got
we
a
don't have
book out
time.
there. You've got a couple more minutes on the clock here, but
Well, aside from the podcast, which is doing really well, I'm very grateful for it. We're on the third season now. It's called Out of Order Podcast, and you can find it on Spotify and Apple, and I think iHeart as well has it. And last this past June, I've also wrote a book. It's called Out of Order: The Loss of a Child.
mm,
Small book, but it's my baby, it's my project, I'm very proud of it, and I hope that it can help not just parents who have lost a child, but anyone who is, having to grieve. I hope that it helps as a guide, or even, if you know someone that has lost,
yeah,
and I wouldn't say a grief guide, but you know, there's a lot of lessons in there, and I hope I continue to make Miriam proud. And I think that I can speak on behalf of any mother who has lost a child. We want to remember them always. We want to say their names.
yeah,
And I will continue to do that until the day I die.
awesome. Luna,
Yeah.
thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Brad.
Yeah. Listeners, thanks again for tuning in to the Grief Observed podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as I have. I will put Luna's information in the show notes and go check out that book and podcast, and we will catch you on the next episode. Have a great day, everyone.